Hey guys, welcome to Careertainment and thank you for watching and subscribing. In today's episode, we will look at a very interesting topic which may be of immense relevance to many of you, especially those who are in senior middle management roles or even senior management roles, right? How many times does it happen that you've been working for a very large MNC or a global transnational and somebody comes and offers you a job to become a CEO or a COO of a relatively smaller organization in the same domain? And when I say relatively small, I mean relatively small. I don't mean a startup, right? So let's exemplify the situation. Now, let's say you've been working for the last 15 years or 20 years in a very large global MNC in the manufacturing segment, like let's say the ABBs or the Scanias of the world, or you're in the top 5 IT companies in the world, or even in India. And then suddenly there's this entrepreneur who comes in and in the same domain, who's perhaps been a vendor to you and says that, sir, I've got this small, you know me, I've got this 150 crore company. Why don't you come and join me and become its CEO and COO, and let's together take it forward? What's the decision that you guys are going to take? Important that you think correctly, right? So let's look at that. A couple of things that I'm sure must be coming to your mind immediately. One, it's a Lala company. Should I join? Not join? Second, what about my growth prospects? I've been here for the last 15 years. Third, about my salary. What about that? Fourth, most important, my job security. That's like critical, right? What else? Yeah, of course, for many of you, the logo on your visiting card and the prestige that brings in the society, that also matters. So these are the 4 or 5 things that really come to your mind immediately, right? But before we look at the various perspectives and these blocks and what you should really do and before you take up or not take up this assignment, I want to narrate a small incident that I came across a couple of years back. Now, there was this guy who was in a kind of a senior general manager or works manager role, and he joined a similar small enterprise, a 150 crore company. And after a window of 5 years, I want to kind of paint a picture for you to understand. This guy who was drawing, let's say, a salary of $100 over there is now drawing a salary of, say, $1,000. Drives around in a Merc, is on the board of the company, respected and traveled all over the world, has accumulated significant personal assets, of course self-funded, but facilitated and soft-funded by the company. He's got apartments and homes in some decent areas of the city. Children in some very high-fee global colleges, again facilitated and soft-funded by the company. So it's worked out for him. So that's the kind of scenario that's happened for him, and I'm not doubtful that it can even happen for everybody, provided you really look at some of the blocks and some of the perspectives. Now let's look at the blocks that you had in mind. It's a Lala company. Shall I join or not join? Honestly, every company could be a Lala company or otherwise, depending on how you look at it. Maybe your Lala is sitting in Seattle or Frisco or London or Dubai or Bombay. You're in a very large company, large MNC, you don't know. The Lala is somewhere else and you're there, right? So, but we'll do another video on a Lala company. Quite honestly, this is in your mind, just take it away. Second, about your growth. Let's face it, in a large MNC, the base of the pyramid is very large and the top is narrow. So you get diminishing returns for the effort that you put in terms of your growth, right? Enterprise growth. About your salary, now this guy is not going to pay you less than the salary that you already get. I mean, he's a man of the world, so he knows that, yeah, quite honestly. And secondly, in a large enterprise, there's no exponential growth of the salary. Of course, there are big salaries, but then it finally continues in a straight line continuum, right? It's a 15, 20, 80, 22% growth. Now, there's no exponential growth in your salary. About your job security, again, I think that's in your mind, because an entrepreneur is very much concerned about the security of his, because his existential issue is linked to the security of his enterprise. So he's very clear that his enterprise is going to be secure. And if you're kind of tailgating in a proper manner, your security is taken care of. In fact, your security may be taken care of way beyond your retirement. I mean, I've seen that happen. And finally, the prestige that the logo brings on the visiting card. Now, these are things that mattered when, we got out of college. After 15, 20 years, I'm sure most of you are mature enough to understand these things don't matter. So now let's look at the 4 or 5 things, if you've taken care of these blocks in your mind, of what to do when such an offer comes up and when you're faced with such an offer. Number one, ask for the balance sheet of the entrepreneur. He'll share it with you openly, or if you can even source it from the ROC. Go through some critical parameters like the cash reserve ratios or the asset covers. How is it leveraged? Is it too much of debt? What is the enterprise entrepreneur's own equity in the net worth? Those are the kind of things that you need to check on. What are the recent investments that have been made? You could even take the help of a friend, CA friend of yours to kind of help you out. You then look at some of the non-balance sheet issues when you talk to the entrepreneur, and don't talk about things like vision, mission, values, those kind of things. Let's keep that aside for that. Let's talk practical. What is the turnover target that you expect? What are the segments that you're going to be looking at? What do I bring to the table, or what do you expect me to bring to the table? Those are the kind of things that you should be talking about. The third thing, you should look at the manner in which the guy is talking to you. That'll throw up a lot of signals. I'll give you 2 examples. If somebody says, I want to professionalize my organization, so I want you to join me, that's one way of saying something nonsense, right? It could mean anything. But if somebody tells you that, I want somebody who I can work with shoulder to shoulder, hand in hand to really take it forward. I know there's opportunity in the sector and in my company, and I really need some help. Now that's your guy. For example, a guy tells you, you've got so many contacts in the industry, join me and we'll make it happen. Now that's a guy you're not touching with a barge pole, right? But if the guy says that you've got so much learning in your industry, please join me, you'll really shorten my learning curve, and at the same time, you'll be able to implement a whole lot of stuff. And that's the company that you should be probably considering. Now these are the 2 or 3 things about the entrepreneur. There's something about you that you should check out. Now, a lot of things are different in a small enterprise than when it was in a MNC. Even the lifestyle is different. There's going to be decent economy class travel. There may not be business class, right? To start with, at least. Of course, no club floor hotel rooms. It could be, maybe Airbnb or a decent 3-star hotel. But those are things which don't matter. Even in terms of operating expenses, every rupee spent, you got to be very careful. It's looked at differently. See, in a large enterprise, in an MNC, a lot of inefficiencies get cushioned because of the size. Now, those come out open. I've seen many people who've moved in from MNCs to small organizations behave in the same manner. Now the paradigm changes. You got to behave in a completely different manner, because if you don't, then I've seen a lot of heartburn and handshakes happen, and that's what leads to some unfortunate incidents. So you should understand that the paradigm changes. But if you've really checked out all these kind of things, I'm telling you, it could be a phenomenally rewarding experience for you guys to move to a smaller enterprise. Just check out on these 3 or 4 things. If you really need to bounce off stuff offline, you're welcome to connect. I hope it works out for you and this episode was useful, and keep subscribing until we meet again. Cheers, goodbye, and see you.